Week 1 is in the books, but week 2 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few defenses I would look to drop this week. The first defense is the Carolina Panthers. So the Panthers, they were a recommended ad for only 1 week, and they got the job done, and they were a recommended start as well. They had a decent fantasy day versus the New York Jets. 6 sacks, an interception, and only 14 points allowed in that game. I thought they were going to do a little better in that one, to be honest with you, but they still got the job done. They still were productive. But here in week 2, they got a matchup coming up with the New Orleans Saints here. And the Saints, we saw the damage they did to a pretty decent Green Bay Packer defense, putting up 38 points and also shutting down Aaron Rodgers and getting short fields for their offense. So right here, it's going to be a tough matchup. Jameis Winston, he looked real good, calm, cool, and collective in that pocket. And right here, Carolina, I don't think they're going to do much versus Jameis Winston. Because in my opinion, I think that Green Bay defense is a little better than the Panthers. And they couldn't even stop that good offensive attack of Winston and Alvin Kamara as a 1-2 punch. So I would drop the Panthers this week. The next defense I would look to drop this week is the Indianapolis Colts. So the Colts last season, they were a pretty decent defense in fantasy football. But so far in week 1, it definitely was a tough matchup versus Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks, who went up and down the field in that one and won the ball game 28-16. And the Colts finished that game with only 3 sacks, a fumble recovery, and obviously, like I mentioned, 28 points given up. And next week, it's another tough matchup versus the Los Angeles Rams in week 2, who went up and down the field versus a pretty decent Chicago Bear offense. So Matt Stafford, he fits that offense pretty good, it looks like. And that team, they got a lot of weapons on the outside with Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and Vance Jefferson was even emerging in that ball game, and Darrell Henderson, a pretty good game on the ground. So right here, I can't trust the Colts in a tough ball game in this situation versus the Rams. And then the week after that as well, they got a tough matchup at Tennessee. Even though I know Tennessee struggled on offense yesterday, that's not going to be an everyday thing here for the Titans. So right now, I think it's easy to drop the Colts, and maybe you come back for a pickup with them in week 4 at Miami. But the next 2 weeks are going to be tough. And they're a team I wouldn't use on the defensive end of things here in my lineup. In the third and final defense, I would look to drop this week's the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I was wrong. I thought the Jaguars had a great opportunity to make some plays and have a good defensive game versus the Houston Texans and the Tyrod Taylor quarterback team here. But that wasn't the case. Tyrod Taylor, he looked good, no doubt about it. And I'm going to take nothing away from him. And this Jacksonville Jaguar defense looked horrible, giving up 37 points and only having a sack for negative fantasy points in this ball game. So right here, Jacksonville, they're a train wreck on defense. The offense didn't look any better as well, in my opinion. And next week, they got a pretty stiff matchup again versus the Denver Broncos, who looked pretty good in week 1 at the New York Giants, running the football and Bridgewater passing the football, even though Jerry Jeudy's hurt. So right now, you can't trust Jacksonville, even though they were only a 1-week ad anyway for me last week as a team to put in your lineup. But no way I'm going to trust them versus Denver, Arizona, and Cincinnati the next few weeks. So they're an easy drop. So that's a few defenses I would look to drop here heading into week 2 of the fantasy football season.